Welcome to Cinematose Crunch, where we take a bite out of the films that we saw in our screen studies class. I'm Jack Wallace. For a minute, I forgot that there was a sentence after that. Joined as usual by Ruth Me and Georgie
Well,
Larkov.
we should end. We should just like
Fuck it, you know who we are. You know who we are.
Read.
Okay, so let's get started on this. What documentary are we diving in, snacking on today?
Okay, so we're watching An Honest Liar, which is about a magician who somehow creates the idea that there's like actual morals with deception, and you get to know him and his personal life really well.
Yep,
He's like a professional mythbuster.
You do know that that's just a mythbuster, right?
Yeah, no, but like that doesn't sound like a real job, you know? Like
Guess.
it's like saying, okay, no, I'm not gonna say that.
No, go ahead. I want to hear it now.
No, I respect this job more than I respect the comparison I was gonna make it to.
Well, like he said, he was a good magician, and a good magician is a
Yeah,
con man
no,
with a good
he
heart.
was also a good magician, yeah.
What a good one.
So let's
But
start
really,
off. Yep.
oh yeah, go ahead.
No, you go. I didn't have much to say.
I was gonna say, but if anything, in the documentary, it has highlighted the difference between magicians and con men, and Randy is an example of somebody who wants to maintain being a magician, who shows people tricks and fools them, but then doesn't ask for money in return or scam them in any way.
Yeah.
While con men
Yeah.
claim to be the real thing and tell people that they are psychics.
He just
when really they're
doesn't
not.
really create that sort of false hope in people. He's just straight up, he's very honest, he's very straight up. And the documentary shows this not only by like taking found footage, and this is like the era he was born in and the era he worked with goes perfectly because all of this footage, all of his performances where you could find them. And you weren't like just taking it from word of mouth. It'd be one thing if it was solely his interview and a voiceover with him with pictures of him as a magician. But there are clips of him saying, I am a con man, I deceive people, I do all of this just to let you know. And then it contrasts greatly with the found footage of, say, I forgot that guy's name, Elia or something, and the pastor.
The spoon vendor?
It's
Uri
clear
Geller,
that
yeah.
this
Uri
spoon
Geller?
vendor,
Yeah,
A
Geller.
goat, the Israeli magician goat. We love Uri Geller.
I mean, like representation, I guess.
Fun fact: 20% of working magicians are Jewish. It's like, which is insane if you think about how few Jews there are. Harry Houdini, also Jewish. David
I mean,
Brady,
if you could
David
even as by
Copperfield. Like, it's
even if you couldn't
insane.
tell by the stage name his actual name, which I forget off the top of my head,
Oh yeah.
like that.
What, James Randi?
James Randi is the person we're talking about. I think Jack is referring to Harry Houdini.
Yeah.
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 Oh.
Yeah.
Well, going off of what Ruth just said about like him not lying about anything, I just feel like that one part where he gets injured during a trick and like he's like almost dying because he breaks one of like I think he breaks his spine or his vertebrae, yeah. And the fact that they had footage about him coming on stage on a stretcher and then being like, oh yeah, I got hurt. I just feel like it's very authentic. And that just like goes to show that he's like openly accepting of who he is, and like he says that I'm a con man because yeah, I do that.
It's
and that
very,
was just
yeah.
like exactly like you can like look in the past and you can like actually like go through all of it like to verify every single thing that he did. Like there's nothing to hide with him.
And it's like excellent because this documentary in nature is almost entirely empirical. There is evidence, there's facts, there's explanations, there's the like there are multiple mentions of like the scientific method, like, oh, which one is the control spoon, which one is the experimental spoon? How do you know which one is which? How do you know if like the scientists themselves don't have confirmation bias. And it's like incredibly empirical for a documentary about magic.
Well,
Yep.
And but it still feels like it works in this wonderful tandem.
well, because this, the reason that it's empirical is because this guy's whole thing is debunking, and magic is there's magic is all math and science.
So I think now would be a good like point to shift into the discussion of how the documentary is structured. I think we can see that in the broad view, and in the beginning and the end of the documentary, they mentioned that really the approach is scientific in nature, and that they're pushing skepticism for the viewer. And I think in this case, it's really interesting to take a look at the fact that while we were talking, you guys mentioned there's kind of a linear structure. Well, not linear, but like there is a defined progression. But at the same time, the documentary is kind of non-linear, you could say, right?
Mhm.
Yes, and
And I
I
think-
love that, honestly.
Well,
Like my favorite part about it is the fact that it shows you what happens chronologically, and they're like, okay, let's just leave back, but take it from a different angle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminds me sort of like a way that, if anything, if not people, at least the way I talk.
Mhm.
How many, like, I can at least vouch for several times where I have gotten in conversations and I realize, hang on a second, this doesn't set up the story well. Let me backtrack. Hold on. There's a thing that happened here that's actually pretty crucial, even if it doesn't seem like it. It'll come in later. Okay, now we have the whole picture. Let me set us back on track. Oh,
Mhm.
hold on. While I'm here, there's this bit that gives it a bit more context. It doesn't. It I won't say it necessarily shows you everything, but it doesn't leave, for lack of a better word, holes in the story.
Mhm.
Yeah.
the way that's achieved, you have I think it's a pattern of show old interview of magic being done,
Mhm.
then show reaction at the time, and then show reaction now, and it
Yeah.
kind of cycles through those three, and you could messes around with the order to create that non-linearity, as well as going, I think a lot of the that is also created with the what I'm gonna call the Uri Geller arc of this is how they switch between magicians, go back and forth between them. So you and as well as they like continue to mention magicians that they've already talked about in other segments to create this little puzzle of which how every magician was trying to deceive you.
I feel like
Um,
what how we're talking about, like the non-linearity of it and all, just makes me think like how more like it's obviously like a story-based documentary, like as like how I saw it, like throughout, like we're like looking into his life and it's a story, but at the same time, with all the aspects that Jack just mentioned, like going back and then being like, oh wait, here's more to this. This is what happened. I feel like it just like leans towards more like towards an argumentative sort of documentary, like they're going back and forth and then trying to prove the points that they were talking about. And like I just there's a sort of like a difference that I found, like it could be, I don't think it is, but I feel like it could be argued as an argumentative documentary as well.
It's also like messing with the fact that it's incredibly consistent and dedicated to the so like even though it's non-linear, it shows you nothing but the facts.
Mhm.
Like this is
Yeah.
precisely what happened. We have multiple accounts of this. We will
Mhm.
show you the screenshots of these newspapers. There is no reenactment.
Yeah.
Not
No.
not once. There's no reenactment. The closest thing we have is the opening shot where he's just walking around in this little mansion and he did this magical portal to like sorry, not portal, like this shifting bookshelf to go into the theater. But it
Speakeasy
also,
lights.
which rounds about like how even if what you all see is empirical, there is always like you always have to like question what is the truth and question what you perceive or like how you saw it.
And yeah, that's
Skepticism.
like, yeah, and that's why I feel like it like draws towards an argumentative point of view, because then you get to decide for yourself, because you have the facts and they're like putting out their story, and then you're just like, okay, I see it.
And
And I think that the skepticism is super meta because it's him being a skeptic and trying to debunk people. But like I don't know if I think just like what 1 or 2 years before this came out, Now You See Me came out. I don't know if you have seen
Yes.
that.
I actually did think, like, I was thinking of
There's
that
that
movie
whole
a lot for some
monologue
reason.
of the closer you think you are to figuring out what we've done, we're that's when we're 10 steps ahead of you. And I think that applies a lot to sleight of hand and whatnot.
Oh, totally.
You know, in tandem with that skepticism, the story works in parallels where Randy is debunking all these crooks, and then he himself discovers his own partner as the story
Well-
that he was withholding with him.
Oh, I think that's
And what's crazy about that is that he doesn't believe he was a crook, which is
Mhm.
another thing I really admire about this documentary is that they took one of the magicians who Randy declared as a crook and a liar, and they interviewed him, and there's like no doubt in this guy, absolutely none. Like he's like, oh, this is what I believe, this is what's real. And it also comes to question of, is he really a crook if he truly believes that what he's done is the truth?
That's a very good point. So it makes you have this open mind about everything you're seeing, and you're really questioning, well, what is the real story here between both sides?
I think the when I started watching this movie coming I don't know, as a little kid I was obsessed with like card tricks and stuff, and I was like getting I'd watch like a few documentaries on magic stuff before, and that's generally the part I'm interested in, is the specificity of like how you of tricks and audience manipulation. And I think that's not at all what this movie comes to be about. This is I think the most unique magic documentary, which I know is oddly specific, but that is a whole world of film that and that's largely because of one, the story evolves in real life in an unpredictable way. That there's that, so you could argue that it wasn't like the directors who made this like super unique, they just got lucky. But I think it's the huge aspect is the concept of magic having morals to it like it can sound ridiculous, though I think the part that really got me was the idea of fooling scientists. Like no, I don't know why, even though like I would think to sympathize with fooling just common people more because I can relate to that. But for me, the idea that you're trying to debunk current science with you pulling off tricks, that's where I was like, okay, what's the there really is a movie here.
Like, what direction are you going to, like, in seeking the truth? The truth doesn't necessarily mean that makes you in the right. Like, just because what you're saying is true doesn't make it right, because that poor man had like a mental breakdown. That's when they sort of realized that, is this truly what we want to do? And like, is this like what we have utterly set out? Was this utterly our goal to like make this grown man cry, or was it
Yeah.
to make him admit that he was wrong? Or and they always beg that question in the documentary, because it's very human in the end. Like, again, in spite of it being about magic and scam and God and religion, it's utterly human at its core.
And going off of what you just said, Ruth, like I loved how you just talked about like how they're like, just because you're telling the truth doesn't mean it's like right. It just that scene, it reminds you of the scene where he like, what's that guy's name? The Peter Pop-Up guy. This is first of all such a funny name. Why are you named Peter Pop-Up? And then I like that scene when they go and like they record it, and then they have like this little sting operation, and they find out that it's the wife who's apparently the god, and then she's the one telling him all about it. And that like reminded me of the movie Prestige because of all the magician drama. And I just thought it's really funny to mention.
Is it the one with the twin brothers? Is that the one?
Oh yeah, Nolan. And how they had like a little beef going on between them. It's just how like his team was just like, oh yeah, he's doing wrong. And that's how just like it also goes to show like how Randy actually was a really like ethical man, like who's like very like moral, and like, and just because he knew that there was something going on and like wrong, he had to do a little sting operation, like, and he had to like bring it out. And the badass move was he went on a public like TV. I don't know where he went, to a talk show. I think he went to a talk show to expose that man. He did not even tell him before. It's like, yeah, he's finding it out in front of the world on live TV.
And
So,
speaking of, oh, no, I'm sorry, you can go.
I was just gonna talk about Randy a little bit more. And to connect to that, Randy kept mentioning that his life is surrounded by, it's largely characterized by deception. And I remember very clearly he made the quote that he works to do deception to reveal the truth. But then people like Popoff and Geller and all the other people, they do deception to conceal the truth. And that's really the main difference between what they do. And that really ties into the whole spirit of the documentary here.
Also, I feel like the title of the movie, the documentary, An Honest Liar, is like when we find out later that his partner has been committed like a fraud and like identity theft. That's when I was like, oh, this is like has a deeper meaning to me, because it was like an honest liar, like
Yeah,
his
it
partner.
becomes much more meta once
Yeah,
that
it was
happens.
like, oh, this just went to
Absolutely.
another level.
And
That's
it's
brilliant.
You have you have the base meaning of like an honest liar being just a magician,
A
someone
magician.
who's lying to you, but he's a magician who like well, he's the type who would like explain how a trick works or debunk someone else, so that already was enough to probably title it, and then it became even more it became a better title because like it's really screwed up that this movie was made better by his life getting messed up while they were filming it.
That is so true. Like I was like, oh,
it
drama.
enhanced it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Very
Sadly, that's
unfortunately.
how life stories work. Stories get
Yeah.
good, the more life gets worse.
And it just
Absolutely.
like, I love how the movie chooses not to conceal that it's from a certain time. It always lays itself. I keep on repeating this point, but
No, let's talk about the 80s. Let's talk about the 80s.
Yeah, it lays itself out bare. So like that one cut to the found footage of this guy doing like on a stage, he did not have to tell me it was the 80s. The narration did not need to tell me. The moment I saw like the
organ grooving.
yeah, the extravaganza, the church, and
The
like
church.
the quality of the TV, the way the talk shows announce themselves. Because if you
Yeah.
like compare,
I think I'll admit that,
Mhm.
or not admit, I will say that Johnny Carson was definitely not like as around as much in the 80s. Like that was probably 60s, 70s his talk show, and I think the it's really important that they do make sure you know how big he was, because he was, it's like instead of today where you have like 10 different late night hosts, he was like he was the late night host. Like even if there were others, he was like quite dominant in that industry.
Also, how just like how extravagant the church was. It was very clear.
And like it's especially the way that they were like worshiping, like again, like bouncing off of what Jack said, the organ. I can guarantee you pick a like you go to 5 different churches all
You
in
hear
one
like
Sunday.
a
Nobody does that. Nobody does that anymore unless you're in the deep south. Unless
the
you're in the deep
Baptist.
south, but you could tell they're not in the deep south because of the quality of the TV television, and I'm very happy they added that in along with the little black borders for when like when he was in his prime. Well, he was always in his prime as a magician, but
No,
when
the
he
letterboxing,
yeah, and you can tell like with those little black borders, you're like, oh, we're in a different era now.
Bro, there's quite the narrative of time passing going on, isn't there? Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Oh,
And that's
The-
why it keeps going back between Randy and Giller. And like, I remember how in the end of the documentary they show what everybody's doing after the time passed.
Yeah. What is Geller doing? Isn't he like
He's
Like
he's still
he was mentioning
performing,
that.
probably.
Oh yeah, go on.
I'm guess like I mean in the documentary they talk about how even though when he went on Johnny Carson they thought they would have killed him. Not he was for a while a global sensation.
yeah, he was still hot shit,
yeah.
which is terrifying.
Yeah. And by the end of the documentary, I believe he started doing jewelry and stuff.
Yeah,
Or was that
that's what I was thinking. Like
Oh, the
I
other
think
guy?
he's telemarketing. Is that what he's doing?
Oh,
Praise
like
the
that.
Lord with this like
Praise the
holy
Lord.
water, and then like for only 5,099.
The jewels.
Oh wait,
what
that's
you did.
Popov.
I
Yeah.
found
So
imagine
Popov,
seeing mega church pastors and priests on fucking QVC.
Yeah. From May
Guys,
the
I
Lord
swear
be
this
with
will
you.
lead you to salvation if you buy my merchandise.
And if you act in the next 5 minutes, well, we can bundle in this customized rosary to show your true devotion.
but what's interesting is both of these guys are still at large and they're still like pretty well off, I think. That's kind of the scary thing that the show is showing.
well
Popov is still selling jewelry, and even though he's not as big as he was before, he's still doing okay. And then Geller is doing amazing. He got an entire oil company like he bought when he was talking to a British guy, I remember they said.
Yeah.
And they're still at large. And then
I mean,
you
I
have
don't
the
think,
entire
like-
story with Randy.
I think that like of the two that Uri Geller is like just trying to entertain, the other guy is literally just a scam artist.
I
Bro.
also really think that Ruri, is that his name again? Yuri?
Yeah.
Uri.
Yeah.
Uri just genuinely, truly believes it.
Yeah.
Genuinely.
I
Sorry.
I don't think he does. I think I think he's just
He's in too deep.
yeah, I think he's in too deep, and he kind of even though he doesn't, he loves pretending, and he loves being
You know,
a fake psych.
Like it's
I
also
think
oh.
I think he's probably lying, but you know what? He really plants the seed of doubt in your mind that, well, maybe he's not lying. Maybe he is a psychic, just for a second. He makes you question.
Yeah, that's how he fucks with our mind.
Magicians have to be
And but
persuasive.
like the one interview from a found footage that I can't get out of my mind is that one random man with sandy blonde hair and the glasses, and he says, "You're a psychic, you just won't admit it." And I'm like, how is this man so stuck in these expectations of what a psychic is and is not, and in spite of all this evidence being presented in front of him, he only believes that confirms his beliefs and not deny. And you have
Belief
to
is a
admit,
very strong force.
it's a very like they could have not put that in, but I feel like they put it in to like remind the viewer that in the end, even if you reveal the truth, that doesn't really mean the truth is going to do anything.
Mhm.
Belief can
What
sometimes
exactly
quite
are you
spiral into
expecting the
delusion.
truth to do? Make everybody believe in the same thing again? No, that's not how people work. And it's never how people work.
Now that you mention it, the show mentioned that it mentioned how people almost want to see crazy things happen on TV rather than hearing the truth because the truth is boring and the truth is ugly. And people don't want to
Like
hear
those
it.
words.
They'd rather have their beliefs, pre-existing beliefs reinforced because that's easier to do. And I think that's part of the whole deception narrative is the fact that people already believe in something. You just have to find something that already
Mhm.
coexists with that belief.
Mhm.
So it's very easy to convince people. They want to be convinced. You just have to give them a reason. That's
This
how they make their money.
this documentary.
Also, you know what was so
Absolutely.
80s? The
Mhm.
peak 80s for me was how the problematic age gap between Jose and
Yeah, we love
and Randy.
queer couples with questionable age gaps.
Very questionable. Like I can like when they met, Randy already had white hair, and that's what's
Mhm.
concerning for me.
Yeah, it
totally
was.
not the identity theft.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I love how in the very beginning they leap from when Randy was like in his 20s, 30s or so and doing like the upside down
Mhm.
escape trick, which is I'm guessing was it what era was it in? It's like it was still black and white, so it's like maybe 60s,
60s
Yeah.
was my guess.
60s, and then it leapt like it was like okay, we're in the 60s now, let's go to the 2000s, and then there's this establishing shot of a diner, but you know damn well like this is not like a vintage diner, this is
Less than 1
modern
hour.
day.
Uh,
We have less than a minute, so I
Ooh.
think we should
Yeah.
like
Continue
Oh.
in the next part.
continue.
Yeah. We'll be right back.
I'll make the next meeting.
No problem.
We're not recording it. Oh,
Oh,
We're back. It's
we
Cinema Toast
are
Crunch.
back. I'm sorry. So picking up from where I left off
Give me
in
a second.
part one, you open up to this diner and it looks like it's a diner that's trying to be vintage, but like it's so obvious that this is taking place 2010 to 2000s.
Fun fact, I actually have not been to one of those because the only ones that I have been to have actually been around that long.
Dang.
Right?
Mhm.
yep. I haven't been to a vintage diner either.
what?
Yep.
You,
That's the only thing America's got going for it, is my opinion.
what?
America.
Okay,
Speaking of
that's
America-
quite the statement.
I mean,
That's
like,
quite
go
the statement.
just like go to a city. Like, I know I'm from LA, so like, I like that's cheating, but like, that's not even an old city comparatively. Like, just go to New York and go to a vintage diner. It's like a necessary experience.
Mhm. Speaking
Anyways,
of like America, but like it's so easy for people to think like, oh my God, people back in the day were so gullible. Why would you believe in this guy screaming into a mic about like, you know, how he's gonna cure cancer and stuff like that? But you see stuff like this even more frequently every single day. And in spite of like the looping and like the jumping around the timeline, it remains the fact that people are just inherently like they just want that excitement. They inherently yearn for it.
Magic is is a wonderful form of escapism that we're all drawn to. It's fun to believe in things that are impossible.
Always.
true. Now people are more gullible than ever, I'll be willing to say, actually.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Now
I think it's because we're getting more
it's
desperate.
just the same kind of scams are just evolving and changing form, but they're still remaining at large. Everything keeps evolving and changing, but like the core essence of things remains.
Mhm. And like to like for a comfort though, Randy's entire idea wasn't to stop these guys from scamming, but to have the audience start questioning
Mhm.
They're asking these questions and asking like, okay, how is this possible? Is he the real deal, or is he just messing around with me?
And I feel like that was necessary at the time as well, because it was the time like people were like moving away from a very traditional sort of experience of these things. So like I feel like he was like doing his job and like debunking all those stupid myths and like magic is real, and he was like, okay, yeah, it is, but there's a reason like why you're saying what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I believe we left off talking about like Randy and Jose.
Mhm.
If anybody could comment on that.
Yes, we were. What did we say? What did we say?
We
Age
were talking
gap
about their age gap.
and identity theft.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go with that illusion. So it also just reinforces the fact that like the truth doesn't mean it's right. So like if we're gonna think about this, let's think about it like without any emotions. We don't know who this guy is. We don't know who Randy's partner is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He is a guy who lied about his identity for the past several decades. He's been living in America illegally, and he's stolen the identity of this random guy. That is the concrete truth. It is empirical evidence that this is the truth. But does that mean it's right by law to kick him out and send him back to Venezuela? When you see just the concrete truth, you're like, yes, of course. But then when you see Randy and he's like, I know what he is, and he is my partner. And who's to say that isn't the truth? If you compare it to like being a complete stranger to this man, which I am. He doesn't know who I am. I'm a complete stranger to him. But you have that pity, you have that inherent human empathy to believe in this man in spite of the fact that he's been lying about his identity for the past few decades.
Can I comment on that a little bit?
I'm ready to be taken down. Yes.
Do you guys think he knew the whole time?
Randy?
I think
Yeah.
he knew some of it.
In no way he did not
I don't
know.
think so. I don't think so. I don't
I'm
think
just
Guys.
saying. I'm just saying whatever will get me in
So-
favor with the crowd.
Or like really early.
So-
I feel like he knew for a while. That's my take.
Mhm.
I think again, what's his name?
Randy?
so.
Post-
Randy. Randy himself has always been about honesty, and
Mhm.
his relationship with Jose was also part of that deception narrative in the documentary. Randy went around his entire life being an honest magician, an honest liar, and yet he reveals that his own partner lied to him for his entire life. The reaction we saw in the documentary leads me to believe that he really did not see it coming. But at the same time, when Ruth was talking about the incarceration that was a possibility for him, I actually think Jose's life, he was still an honest person. He was just caught up in unfortunate circumstances. That's why you feel bad for him.
He is, yeah,
Like,
he is the
in the eyes
honest
of the law, he might as well be incarcerated. But if you're a human, you understand in his particular circumstances, that should not be his fate. He's a good person.
Mhm.
So that's where this whole narrative of, well, what is really the object? What is the truth? You know?
And like, should the truth be the deciding factor of all decision?
Yeah.
Or is it our inherent human empathy, in spite of it not being logistical or empirical? Should that be the deciding factor? And it really like toes the line, and it
Right
intertwines
on.
these stories of being a believer and being a human and also being a scientist.
Well,
Yeah.
speaking of magic, Jacob, do you want to do a little?
Do a little card trick? Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna do the greatest sin that in magic, which is do exactly what Penn and Teller did, which is do a trick and explain exactly how I do it, so I can get kicked out of
Right.
the Magic Castle.
Are
You
you
were
gonna get away
definitely-
with it? Are you gonna get a show on the CW though? Starring Allison
So-
Hannigan.
Basically,
Are you a psychic, Jacob?
You're giving
Yeah.
like, do you know the Masked Magician?
Huh?
It's giving that, the magician in the mask. Every single trick, it was like a little show. Every single trick he had, he would always show how it worked behind the scenes.
yeah. So
Difference
if
is to
you
show
have
you how it
time,
works,
like-
not how they did it.
if you have
Mhm.
time, one thing that's like super fun to search up is Penn and Teller cup and balls trick. So they do
Balls.
yeah
Oh, come on.
no they do a trick where they have like a bunch of cups and you swap around like foam.
Oh no,
and
is that Ruth
balls.
going, oh, balls?
And
Balls.
you have to move them between them and like make it, and it's all sleight of hand. However, you can, what they did is they made it so the cups were invisible, so you know exactly how it's done, and it still looks like magic. It's very cool. It's a
It's
really
funny because the balls are made of foam, right?
Huh?
The balls are made of foam, so it's easier to squish and manipulate and so.
Yeah, some of them they literally throw away like behind you. It's fucking
Yeah.
amazing.
I'm
Okay,
so excited to see this trick.
so what you do is you take the top card. Okay, everyone see?
Uh-huh.
It is. Wait, can I
Seven
say
of
it out
clubs.
loud, or am I not allowed to say it out loud?
Yeah, you can. I see it.
7 of clubs.
Okay, so what you do is you then take that card and here, let me get you're gonna take that card, you're gonna put it in the middle of the deck.
Can you show me the back of that card again real quickly?
The what?
Back at 7 of clubs.
The back of the 7 of clubs, yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yep.
Here. Here's the 7 of clubs, okay?
Yep.
Mhm.
Perfect.
Okay, and then
Checking to make
what
sure
we're
they're
gonna
not
do
palming
is we're gonna
cards.
put the top card, the 7 of clubs, into the deck,
Mhm.
and then it's back.
Do that one more time.
Yeah, do it again. Run it back.
Do it again. Do it
Run it
again.
the fuck back.
I was looking away.
Uh-huh. Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure.
Shut the
Okay,
fuck up.
so
Shut the fuck up.
on top we have the 7 of clubs, right?
We have the 7
Uh-huh.
of clubs.
You take the card, you put it in the middle of the deck.
Mhm.
Run it the fuck back. Run it the fuck back.
So that
Okay, maybe
No,
Wait, use
that's
a different
great.
card. Use like another card.
okay. We'll try.
Could you do
Only
a
thing that'd be
trick
more
where we
clever is that
choose
if
a
it still
card?
came up as the 7 of clubs.
that's crazy. Do you have 2 7 of clubs?
Give us all
No.
the sevens. Give us all
Here,
the sevens and give
we'll
us all
do
the
king of
clubs. Hand them all over. No more
Okay,
cards.
fine, no clubs. We'll do we'll do
Yeah,
Wait,
the
no,
ace
no.
of diamonds at one
Let's
point,
see
right?
how you're preparing the deck
Okay.
too.
Oh, 3 of
because,
diamonds.
like,
3 of
See, I was
diamonds.
checking to see if he was
diamonds.
palming it and I couldn't see anything.
Here, let me
3 of diamonds.
yep,
on top.
3 of diamonds.
All right, gonna put it in the
I
middle.
have a feeling you have 2.
I think he put 2 decks. maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the trick?
Okay,
Mhm.
so it's the simplest thing in the world.
So you see how he's popping, so like the card. So there's a bit of a lift to it.
No,
Right.
Jack. Let him cook. Let him cook.
It's exactly called a lift. It's called a double lift, where you take 2 of the same cards.
See, I knew it. I
Yeah.
knew he had 2.
So what you do is you
Science
pick up
wins
the card, you
once
pick up
again.
the first 2 cards together.
Mhm.
So that way when you put it on top, it'll appear first. You can also do a triple lift to throw people off.
That's so smart.
That's crazy.
It is
Yeah.
That's
crazy.
so
Smart.
clever.
I went to the Magic Castle and like and
Oh, you
they-
lucky
and I was-
bastard.
Huh?
Nerd. Oh, I
No,
mean,
no,
you're
just
so
for fun.
lucky.
I didn't perform.
Oh no, still you lucky bastard.
Yeah, no, living in LA is awesome. And they like have like magicians in the card shop, like or in one of the like rooms in the lobby or something, and they try they did this trick on me, and I like I'm now a terrible audience for like card trick people because half the time I know how they did the trick.
There's nothing cooler than magic than ruining it for
Let
everyone else.
myself give in to the magic.
Yeah,
That's what
no.
I do.
It's a
So
very-
thank you so much for watching.
Yeah.
Also,
This
fun
has been
fact.
Cinema Toast Crunch. As for the rest of
Wait,
the
no,
crew,
Jacob's not done. Let him finish his
one
little
of the
fun
coolest
fact.
things I learned.
fuck.
So so Harry Houdini wasn't like the original like escape artist goat. He learned from a guy, or not learned. He looked up to a French magician, who he stole the name of, basically named John Robert Houdin. And that's where he got Harry Houdini from. He was the first escape artist, and Houdini took what he did and just did it on steroids.
All
And
magicians
Randy took from Houdini.
All magicians.
Oh yeah,
rise from
no,
thieves.
Houdini's like every magician's favorite magician, though. What's more interesting is also comparing Houdini's favorite magician. There's a lot of fun stuff with magic history. There's also like this one war that was like ended by a magic trick.
And then there's Siegfried and Roy.
Lion Death, rest in peace.
Lion death.
There's no way to easily transition out of that.
Well,
No, actually there is, like this.
And
Goodbye.
and that's this week's episode of Cinema Toast Crunch. We'll be seeing you all next week with a brand new film, and who knows?
Bye.
No, we won't have